A long time ago, just a few years after Nigeria gained their independence from the British, was a beautiful village, nestled in between three hills. It was like any other Nigerian village, except for one thing. While other villages around them had modernized, Baluji was a place that stubbornly stuck to age-old tradition and culture. The king of Baluji was a man named Obafemi. Even though Baluji was a small village, King Obafemi was a very wealthy man, as Baluji had enormous gold deposits. King Obafemi, however, was only the second richest man in Baluji. The richest man was a chief whose title was Abobaku, and his name, Otunba Badmus. Abobaku is traditionally the second most powerful man in Baluji, and he had a very strange role to play. The Abobaku you see is the king's companion on earth, and he is also the king's companion when he goes to join his ancestors. If and when the king dies, Abobaku has to follow him shortly after to be his companion and servant as he makes his way to join his ancestors. If this is not done, the king will remain in limbo forever, and a terrible calamity will befall to Baluji. Because of the nature of their role, Abobakus were almost always brave warriors and traditionalists who relished and revered the title. Otunba Badmus, the current Abobaku, however, was a stone-cold coward whose insides rumbled and heart went cold whenever he faced even the smallest of crises. The only good trait Otunba Badmus possessed could be said to be that he was a jolly, happy, go-lucky fellow. He had every reason to be happy and jolly, because whenever King Obafemi bought a car, he would buy Otunba Badmus a car. If he built a house, he would build one for Otunba Badmus. If he took a concubine, Otunba would get one too. This was the perks of being an Abobaku in Baluji. Their tradition was that the Abobaku would get anything the king had. Otunba Badmus was married to Oyin. Oyin was an extremely beautiful and resourceful woman, and she managed her husband's wealth carefully, so that over time, Otunba Badmus became the richest man in Baluji. One night, Oyin came home to find her husband in a somber mood. "What is it, Otunba?" Oyin asked, settling down beside her husband on the couch. "I woke up today with a strange premonition. What if King Obafemi slumps and passes on today? What if he is involved in an accident? It means I will have to join him and all this." He waved around him as he regarded his richly furnished living room. "Will go to waste." Oyin sighed. They had this same conversation at least twice a month. "My dear husband, the king is 27 and you are 36. His father lived until 90, and so did his grandfather and great-grandfather. You are more likely to die of worry than actually having to fulfill your obligation as Abobaku." Otumba's legs tapped the floor rapidly, a habit of his that showed he was troubled. "You are right. He is young and healthy, and nobody in his lineage has ever failed to reach a ripe old age. I guess I am just overthinking things." Oyin smiled and left to prepare a meal. Her thoughts turned to her husband. She loved him, but if she was truthful, he was a man of questionable character. Her mother used to say, "Your husband was not in when the Almighty was assigning good character to humans, and he didn't go out when he was assigning bad character." Oyin's mind went several years back to when they had met. She was just a young girl and lived with her parents, along with her two brothers and an older cousin who was called Ola. One day, Ola came home with a friend, a smiley, chubby boy called Dami Badmus. That day, she laughed until her insides hurt, as Dami was the funniest person she had ever met. He cracked joke after joke and shared several witty anecdotes. Dami became a staple in the household, and one day he asked Oyin to be his girlfriend. "Didn't Ola tell you?" Oyin said. "I am taken." "By whom?" "That man that lives up north, who you haven't seen in donkey years." Dami was quite right. Her boyfriend at the time was in a university far away, and they could only communicate by letters. "He is the man for me. I am sorry I can't date you while seeing someone else. It is against my principles." One day, Oyin opened a letter from her boyfriend, and as she read it, her heart shattered into shreds. It said, "Dear Oyin, I hope this meets you well. I hope you do not end up hating me, but I have put another girl in the family way, and my parents insist that I marry her. This is a very hard decision, but I must do the right thing. Sincerely, Kayode." Oyin cried and cried that night. In the morning, she wrote a tearful letter to Kayode, asking for clarification, but weeks went by without a reply. Eventually, she came to the realization that the relationship was over. Fortunately for her, Dami was a shoulder to cry on. He helped her during that terrible period, and after a few months, she got over Kayode. Slowly, Dami and Oyin's friendship turned into a relationship, and after a year, he proposed. "Are you sure he is what you want?" Oyin's mom asked her. "Yes, ma, I love Dami and want to be his wife." Oyin's mom sighed. There was something about Dami that did not sit right by her. He was charming, jovial, and funny, but her motherly instincts warned her that he was not a good person. "If he is what you want, then you have my blessings. But take heed, we do not divorce in our family. You are the child of titled people from both your mother's and father's side. When you are married, the union is irreversible. Once again, are you sure Dami is the man for you?" "I am sure," Oyin replied. Soon they were married. The first few years were very hard as Dami struggled to find a job and they had to make do with her Oyin's salary. They lived in a dingy and damp, one-room apartment and could only afford a meal a day. One day, as she was finishing work, her cousin, Ola, turned up. He had left Baluji many years ago and Oyin had not seen him since. "What a pleasant surprise, Ola. Is this you?" "Yes, it is me," Ola replied. Oyin's eyes narrowed. Ola looked well, but his eyes wouldn't meet hers, and he kept shuffling his feet nervously. "Is there a place where we can talk freely?" he asked. They found a quiet room. "Oyin, I am so sorry. I have done something terrible to you," he said. To her surprise, Ola started crying. "Me? What? Stop crying. How bad could it be? Remember many years ago when you got a letter from your ex-boyfriend Kayode ending your relationship?" How could she forget? Oyin thought bitterly. "I remember. That letter wasn't from Kayode. I wrote that letter." Oyin's mouth opened and shut. You mean you wrote that letter? I don't believe you. I know Kayode's writing very well. I can recreate any writing, Oyin. It was me. Your husband, Dami, put me up to it. He wanted you to be his girlfriend and pressured me to write the letter. I resisted for as long as I could, but then he blackmailed me. I had gotten a girl pregnant and he threatened to tell your parents, and knowing them, they would have kicked me out, so I agreed to write the letter. Oyin's world started to spin, but he never wrote again. Ola sighed sadly. Yes, he did, several times. He presented Oyin with a stack of unopened letters. I intercepted the letters from him. I have kept every single one. Every Friday when the mail came, I would be up early and get his letters from the postbox. I did this religiously until he stopped writing. Oyin took the letters wordlessly. She felt sick to her stomach. "I suppose you stole my letters as well?" Oyin said sadly. Ola nodded, looking morose. "I never dreamed in a million years you would end up marrying him else. I never would have done it. He is a man of low character. I wish I never introduced you. Please forgive me." Oyin got up wordlessly and walked to an empty classroom, leaving a tearful Ola behind. She spent a good hour reading the letters from Kayode, her heart sinking with each letter read. Kayode had been writing, pleading, demanding to know why she had stopped writing. The very last letter read like a final goodbye. "I have written over 50 letters and no response. I have been so sad. I don't know how I offended you, but I have come to the realization that you must have found someone else and I will leave you alone. I sincerely hope you find happiness. Love forever, your dearest Kayode." That night, she confronted her husband, Dami, and after showing him all the evidence, he finally admitted, "It was not my idea. It was Ola that suggested it. Anything I did for love. It was the devil that pushed me." That same night, Oyin went to her mother and narrated everything to her. "I will leave him. I cannot stay with someone who is so devious," she said tearfully. "That is indeed an evil thing he did to you, but you cannot leave your husband. It is taboo in our family." Her mother replied, "You want me to stay with someone so wicked? Mother, please let me move back home. I beg you. My daughter, I did not choose him for you. Go back to your house and work things out with your husband. Trust in God that he will soften his heart." Oyin had no choice. She went back to Dami, and because she was a strong, resourceful, forgiving woman, she was able to move past it. One day at work, Oyin received an anonymous letter that read, "If you want to know where your husband goes every morning, go to Mama Barakat's beer parlor. You will find him there, drinking, gambling, carousing with women of questionable character." Oyin's heart skipped a beat. Dami had not been able to find work for 2 years, but it was not for lack of trying. Every morning he would get dressed and go around making the rounds in various offices and factories, dropping his CV, hoping to get lucky. He would come back in the evening dejected, and Oyin would console him. "Don't worry, my dear husband. You will find something soon, but until then, I will take care of things," she would say. The next morning, she quietly watched Dami get dressed in a smart shirt and tie and chinos trousers. "I have a few interviews today. Can you give me money for transport and lunch?" Oyin gave him money and watched him go. After a while, Oyin left the house and headed for the beer parlor. She peeped through the window and saw Dami drinking, his arms draped around 2 women. "More drinks and pepper soup for the lovely ladies," he shouted. "This life is only one. In fact, drinks for all." There were a few other people there, and Oyin watched eyes open as he brought them all drinks with her hard-earned money. He started telling one of his funny stories, making everyone laugh. "Can I help you?" Oyin was jolted back from her thoughts. It was the waitress in the beer parlor. "That man buying everyone drinks," she says. "Who is he?" The bar girl smiled. "His name is Dami Badmus. He is one of our best customers. He has been coming here every morning for 2 years. Do you know him?" "Yes, I am his wife. When he finishes drinking, gambling, and making a nuisance of himself with those women, tell him his wife, Oyin, was here." As soon as Oyin got home, she packed as much of her things as she could and headed for her parents' house. "What are you doing? Whose luggage is that?" Oyin's mother says, a disapproving look on her face. "It is mine," Oyin says tearfully. "Let me tell you what my husband did," she says tearfully. When she had finished, Oyin's mom had her hands on her head aghast. "Not only is he devious, he is a lazy womaning gambler," she exclaimed. "You see, I cannot live with him. I work so hard, and I am the one feeding and clothing him, only to see he wastes my money on alcohol and women. This is truly terrible behavior, but take your load and go back to your husband." Oyin's mouth opened in shock. "Mother, please, just for a while until I get a place for myself." "No, Oyin, we do not leave husbands in my family, and it will not start with my daughter. Go back to him and pray to God that he changes. Remember, you chose him." The first 5 years of their marriage took a familiar pattern. Every few months, Dami would reveal one of his bad characters. When he eventually got a job, he lied that his salary was much lower than it was, forcing Oyin to bear most of the burden of running the household. One day, she saw his payslip, and to her shock, found out he was earning more than her. Again, she went tearfully to her mother. Again, she said, "You chose him, not me. Keep praying to God that time will change him." Then, there was the time after their first daughter, Moyin, was born. They were all walking home one day and were attacked by a stray dog. Oyin lifted up her daughter, screaming and kicking, trying to fend off the dog. Eventually, a passerby came and chased the dog away. After thanking him, Oyin realized that Dami was nowhere to be found. He had abandoned his family, fleeing for his life. He slithered back and did not even have the dignity to look embarrassed. "Thank God you are safe," he said. "I went to get a stick to chase the dog away." After a while, Oyin didn't even bother going to her mother any longer. They had their second daughter, Doyin, making divorce even more of it. Whenever she complained to Dami about his behavior, he would say, "Where are you going? After two? Which man will accept a poor teacher with two girls? You had better borrow yourself and accept me for what I am." One day, Oyin's father came to visit. He was a prominent chief in Baluji and part of the council of elders that presided over important matters in the village. "As you know," he addressed Dami and Oyin, "our king has gone to meet his ancestors. We are making arrangements for the Abobaku to escort him to the afterlife." Oyin and Dami were fascinated. "What is the process?" Oyin asked her father. "He will be ensconced in his house for 3 days. In the morning, king is buried. He will come out every day and do the farewell dance for the public. On the 7th day, he will drink from the calabash of the afterlife and go to meet the king, and they will both proceed to see his ancestors." "Isn't he afraid?" Dami asked. "No. Abobakus are specially chosen by the oracle. They are always brave and eager to fulfill their duties. Besides, we do not see it as the end of Baluji, but a new glorious beginning." On the morning the king was buried, a huge crowd gathered in the compound of the Abobaku to witness the ancient last rites, which consisted of the farewell song and dance. Oyin and Dami were there. Now you might think that this would be a somber occasion, but you'd be mistaken. The people of Baluji saw it as a festive occasion, and there would be plenty of food, drink, dance, and merriment on each of the 7 days the rites were to be performed. It was the first time Oyin and Dami had stepped into the Abobaku's house, and they were truly astonished at the opulence. The compound stretched far beyond eyesight. The gardens were lush and well taken care of, and there seemed to be luxury cars everywhere. The house itself was almost as big as the king's palace, a sprawling 15-room mansion with whitewashed marble and maroon roofs, done in a style that reminded Oyin of the Taj Mahal. The crowd roared as the Abobaku came out on the veranda, accompanied by 3 drummers, and the farewell dance began. He performed an energetic 30-minute dance, a smile never leaving his face, forehead glistening with exertion. By the time he was finished, his colorful agbada was drenched in sweat. Then he sang the farewell song, his voice surprisingly melodious for such a powerful-looking man. The crowd cheered and roared long after he had departed. This was repeated for 6 days, and on the 7th, the Abobaku was given the calabash of the afterlife. He drank from it and went to meet the king to begin the journey to their ancestors. On the way home, Dami was quiet, lost in thought. That night he addressed Oyin. "Why can't I be the next Abobaku?" Oyin was taken aback. "Did you see how big the mansion was? Did you see the luxury cars?" He looked around at his shabby living room in disgust. "Why can't that be me?" "My dear husband, yes, the Abobaku has incredible wealth, but remember that when the king takes his last breath, he must follow. This is for only special people, brave people who are ready to pay the ultimate sacrifice." "Are you saying I am not brave?" Oyin, remembering the incident with the dog, bit her lip and chose her words carefully. "I am not saying that at all, but the Abobaku must be chosen by the oracle and sanctioned by the council of elders, of which your father is one." He got up and held his wife, looking into her eyes intently. "Don't you see? This is our way out of poverty. We can provide a better life for our daughters, Moyin and Doyin. The new king is a young man. I am much older. His ancestors have always lived to a ripe old age. There is no chance that I will outlive him. This is my opportunity to beat generational poverty. I must be the next Abobaku. You must convince your father of this." They spent the night going back and forth until Oyin reluctantly agreed to talk to her father. Oyin's father laughed and laughed when he heard what Oyin had to say. "Dami, the same man that left you and Doyin to fight off a small dog while he hid in the bushes, the Abobaku of Baluji, is the second most powerful man in the village, a man of unimpeachable character and extraordinary courage. This is the exact opposite of your husband. Do you not realize what he will have to do if the king departs the earth before him?" "I agree with you, father. I don't want him to be the Abobaku. But doesn't the oracle have to be consulted? Put his name forward. The oracle is sure to reject him. That way, he is happy and will give me peace." Oyin's father rubbed his chin. His daughter was right. They would put his name in the pot, and he would no doubt be rejected, for he was a known coward and laggard. "Okay, I will tell the High Chief Falana, who is the head of the council. Dami will meet King Obafemi first. If the king is pleased with him, which I very much doubt, we will consult the oracle. At least he can't say we did not try." The truth was that the council was finding it difficult getting a suitable candidate, and time was not on their side. Civilization had come, and most residents of Baluji were staunch Christians and Muslims. The idea of being the Abobaku, even though it came with immeasurable rewards, was not most people's cup of tea. The council had sent 5 candidates to the young king, and he was proving picky, rejecting them all for one reason or the other. "That one is too old," he said of the first one. "The second and third were too boring," he complained. "The fourth one talked too much, and the fifth too little." It took a while, but Oyin's father finally convinced High Chief Falana to consider Dami. "What harm can it do?" Oyin's father said. "The king is sure to reject him." Oyin's father was wrong. The feedback from the king was overwhelmingly positive. "That man, Dami Badmus, is the one I want as my Abobaku. So pleasant, so charming, and incredibly funny. Please expedite him to the second stage." The chiefs were stunned. Of all the candidates sent, it was Dami Badmus the king liked, a notorious laggard and coward? Anyway, they all thought the oracle was sure to reject him. They were wrong again. The next day, High Chief Falana emerged from his inner chamber, his face wearing a stunned look. He faced the council of chiefs seated in his living room. "Well, the oracle has spoken. Dami Badmus is to be the new Abobaku." There was stunned silence in the room, for they all knew about the reputation of Dami. But what could they do? The oracle had spoken. So that is how Dami Badmus, a lazy, stupid, laggard, became the second most powerful man in all Bajuji. Otunba Badmus, for that was how he now insisted he should be called, became a wealthy man almost overnight. King Obafemi was one of the richest men in the region, and as his Abobaku, Otunba Badmus enjoyed his largesse. With Oyin managing his affairs, he was able to compound his wealth fairly quickly. The family moved to a huge mansion. Their daughters were enrolled in the best school, and life improved for them. His bad character did not go away. If anything, they were magnified, as with his newfound wealth, he became an unmitigated womanizer. Oyin endured, praying that one day, God would soften her husband's heart. King Obafemi and Otunba Badmus were inseparable and quickly became best friends. Every morning, the Otunba would go to the palace and spend the whole day with the king. If the king went for a function, Otunba Badmus would go. If he traveled out of the country, Otunba Badmus would have a first-class ticker. Everywhere King Obafemi went, his Abobaku was sure to be there, for that was the Baluji way. Otunba Badmus quickly became notorious for his arrogance and disdain for others below his station. "We don't know who is the king and who is the chief," people would scoff as Otunba Badmus became an insufferable snob in Baluji. For 5 years, life was fantastic. Then one fateful day, it came crashing down right on Otunba Badmus' head. King Obafemi developed a headache that wouldn't go away. It would come at him fiercely. the pain forcing him to spend all day in bed. They visited several hospitals and consulted with traditional healers, but nothing seemed to work. He was finally taken to the best hospital in Lagos, and after several medical tests, it was confirmed he had a terminal disease. He was given 3 months to live. The king's family and staff were devastated, but by far the most affected was Otunba Badmus. He wailed and rolled on the hospital floor like a toddler that had had his sweet taken from him. It broke everyone's heart, seeing a most esteemed chief reduced to tears, ostensibly devastated for his friend. If only they knew that Otunba cared nothing for the king. He was thinking only about himself and the terrible thing he would have to endure when the king died. He cried long into the night, even after he had reached his house. Had I known, I would never have allowed you to talk me into accepting this accursed title, he said to Oyin, his body heaving in grief. Just when I started to enjoy life, this is the hand fate has decided to play me. Ha, I am doomed. He bit his finger and looked up, then let out a sorrowful howl. Oyin looked on powerlessly. Her husband's lies didn't surprise her. Indeed, it could be said that the truth and Otunba were mortal enemies that never saw eye to eye. So it was not surprising that he blamed her for his misfortune. Take heart, my husband. There's nothing God cannot do. Otunba wiped his eyes, sniffling loudly. Easy for you to say. You are not the one that will sacrifice his life. Perhaps this was your plan from the start? You cajoled me to take this title so you can inherit my hard-earned wealth. So when I am gone, you can marry a young husband. Oyin rolled her eyes. It was useless reminding Otunba that he was the one that lobbied for the title, that he pressured her day and night to intercede with her father. Go and take a bath. The king is not dead yet. Let's think rationally, she said. We pray that the Almighty's grace sees him through. King Obafemi did not get better, and after a while, he was permanently admitted into the hospital. One day, some of the chiefs and the king's family were summoned to his bed. Stop crying, King Obafemi said, weakly to his 3 wives. I am going to join my ancestors. Last night, I had a dream. I was with my father and his father and his father's father. The pain had gone from my body. I was in the most beautiful place, full of light and absent of suffering. Otunba, he regarded Badmus smiling. You will enjoy the place. There are many beautiful damsels there. Despite their sorrow, they all laughed, well, all except Badmus, who cursed the king under his breath. Why did it have to be when it reached my turn? You decided not to live as long as your ancestors. I curse you, Obafemi. You have ruined my life, he thought bitterly. You are not gone yet, Chief Falana said gravely. None of your lineage have ever departed this early. The king smiled. I am not afraid, and neither should you be. God knows why he calls me before my time. As they left the hospital, Chief Falana said something to Otunba Badmus that turned his blood cold. He could go at any time. We must meet to start planning your farewell ceremony. That night, Otunba couldn't sleep, which meant Oyin couldn't sleep. Oyin, you put me into this trouble. Now you have to get me out. What kind of stupid barbaric tradition is this anyway? The British have banned it. Why do we persist with this nonsensical culture? He was all out of tears, sitting on the bed, his feet tapping the floor furiously. Oyin, a very strong woman of remarkable intellect, put her brain into 4th gear. Let me think of a way out, she said. The next day, she sat with her husband. Go to High Chief Falana and offer him this. She opened a briefcase full of money. How did you get all that? Otunba said, his eyes wide. I have been saving. There's 15,000 naira here, enough for him for the next 20 years. Tell him that the money is his if he agrees to say that the oracle has freed you from your obligation. Otunba rubbed his chin thoughtfully. You think he will accept? Oyin shrugged. Every man has his price, so it is worth a try. This is more money than he has ever seen. He is sure to be tempted. That evening, Otunba Badmus went to see Chief Falana. "It is good that you have come so that we can discuss the issues at hand," Chief Falana said. Otunba Badmus was sweating nervously, clutching the briefcase close to his chest. "About the farewell ceremony, do you think that in this modern day and age, we should still be practicing outdated and barbaric acts like that?" Otunba said, licking his lips. High Chief Falana's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, Abobaku?" Otunba opened the briefcase with a click, revealing the wads of cash. "You see, High Chief, as a born-again Christian, all this is against my religion. If you can see it well to excuse me of this obligation, all this." He grabbed a fistful of naira and waved it, "is yours. You can buy a new house, send your kids to university, and even take a nubile young wife. All you have to do is to tell the council that the oracle has discontinued the Abobaku practice. Nobody will be the wiser." High Chief Falana's eyes narrowed. "You came here to bribe me?" he asked. "Bribe is a strong word, Chief. Let's just call it a gift. You scratch my back and I scratch yours." Chief Falana laughed. "My dear Abobaku, remember how you begged and lobbied everyone for this title. You have enjoyed wealth and adulation beyond imagination. Now you seek to shirk your responsibility? I wouldn't agree to this deception if you offered me 1,000,000 naira." He stood and regarded Otunba coldly. "You miserable coward. It is an honor being the Abobaku, and whether you like it or not, you will perform the ancient rites. So get out of my house, and as you say you are a Christian now, you'd better find the nearest church and pray the king gets better, because if he departs this earth, you are following him willingly or unwillingly." Otunba made a whimpering noise, grabbed the suitcase, and fled as fast as his legs could carry him. "It didn't work!" he screamed at Oyin. "That old wretched bastard is determined to die in poverty. What shall we do?" Otunba Badmus was sitting in his living room, his feet tapping the floor rapidly. Oyin sighed. It was worth a try, but she wasn't shocked the High Chief hadn't accepted the money. "Let me sleep on it, Otunba. I will think of something." A few days later, Oyin drove into their compound to see 3 moving trucks packed side by side. Puzzled, she sought out Otunba. She found him in their room, hurriedly stuffing a suitcase with his belongings. "What are you doing?" she asked. Their room was a mess. There were clothes and other items scattered everywhere. "What does it look like I am doing? We are moving out of this God-forsaken village. I am not going to be a sacrificial goat for any useless king who does not know better, but to die before his time like a chicken." Oyin looked on, stunned, as Otunba hurriedly opened another suitcase. "Well, don't just stand there," he said, slamming shut a suitcase. "Help me pack. The trucks are waiting." "We just can't run away, my Otunba. Let us discuss things." "I am done discussing," he said, facing Oyin. "It is discussing that got me here. Go and pack our daughter's things. We are going far away from here, where nobody can find us." Oyin's shoulders slumped. She knew her husband. There was no way to talk him out of it. She might as well play along for now, while she thought of how to convince him that this wasn't the best option. She went to her daughter's room and found them playing. "Hello, Doyin and Moyin. We are going on a trip. Quick, grab your suitcases and help Mommy pack." 2 hours later, they had loaded their belongings into the trucks, and the drivers were ready to go. "Okay, let's go," Otunba said. "Wait, I forgot something," Oyin said, and disappeared into the house. "Here it is," she thought, retrieving an item in a cellophane bag from her bedroom drawer. She unwrapped the item and peered at the 2 wooden effigies intently. They were items that Otunba's mother had entrusted to Oyin many years ago before she passed. "Take care of them, my daughter. They are very important to me, and I know if I give it to Dami, he will throw them away." They were 2 identical male wooden statues, around 6 inches in length. Quickly, she put it back into the bag and hurried downstairs. Her heart froze as she saw that her father, High Chief Falana, and 3 fierce-looking palace guards were talking to Otunba. "And where do you think you are going?" Chief Falana said, his face furious. Otunba couldn't speak. He kept opening and closing his mouth, terrified. "Father, we are moving some of our belongings out of town. We are going nowhere." Oyin's father regarded her sadly. "Unfortunately, we cannot allow that," he said gravely. High Chief Falana barked an order, and one of the guards grabbed her daughters. "What are you doing?" Oyin shouted. She was restrained by a guard. "Otunba, Otunba, do something," she said frantically, looking for her husband, but he was nowhere to be found. He had fled the scene, his short, stumpy legs moving at a speed that would shame an Olympic sprinter. "Father, please, I promise, we will not flee. Let my daughters go." A tear ran down Oyin's father's eye. "Your husband leaves us with no choice," he said. His face softened as he regarded his daughter. "Don't worry, they will be safe with your mother and I promise. As soon as the farewell ceremony is over, they will be returned to you." "Tell your husband that this is no joke," Chief Falana bellowed. "He is a revered chief, so we cannot control him, but if he doesn't perform the rites, we have his daughters." With that, they left, leaving Oyin crying despondently on the floor. "Have they gone?" Otunba said. He had finally come out of hiding. Oyin didn't say anything. Her heart was heavy, and the tears wouldn't stop flowing. "Father has taken the girls," she finally said. "If you don't perform the rites, your daughters will." She looked at Otunba fiercely. He backed away, shocked at the hate he saw in his wife's eyes. Okay. If it is my demise you wish, then you are in luck. I will willingly perform my obligation as the Abobaku." Oyin did not say anything. She curled up on her bed, tears flowing from her face in torrents. "And where are you going?" Oyin switched on the light, and the Otunba froze. In his hands were 2 suitcases. "So you are going to leave me and your daughters with your mess?" Oyin had woken up later in the night. She had a premonition that Otunba would try something, so she went to the living room and waited. Sure enough, she soon heard him creeping about in the dark and switched on the lights. "Oh, Oyin, you don't know what I have been going through. You know I love my daughters. You can always go and beg your father to let them go. And if he doesn't, you are willing to risk the lives of your daughters for your sins?" Otunba fell heavily on the couch and planted his face in his hands. "Come with me," he said. "We can always have more children." Oyin let out a gasp. Even for him, this was a new low. She hated him so much at that moment. "I should have left him a long time ago. He is a coward. He is selfish, heartless, and a narcissist," she thought. What a dilemma. Leaving her daughters was out of the question. Yet she knew that at the first chance he got, her husband would abscond. And then what would become of her children? She had to do something quickly. "There's another way," she finally said. Otunba looked up. "Come closer," she said, and whispered in his ears. The more she talked, the more Otumba's face lit up. "You, my wife, are a genius. Yes, this will work. You didn't think I would have left you and the girls, did you? This was just a ruse to show you the seriousness of the situation. Tomorrow, we will set the plan into action." He returned to the room, leaving Oyin sobbing silently, her heart hammering in her chest, for she had hatched a truly diabolical plan. The following day, Otunba Badmus got into his car for a 2-hour journey to Ikoyi town. He knocked on the door of a house in the Pora district, and a man opened the door. The man was bald, bespectacled, medium height and built, and he was a mirror image of Otunba Badmus. The man suddenly smiled and hugged Otunba. "My friend Otunba," Bayo said, "I thought I would never see you again." And that, my dear viewers, is the end of part 1 of the story. If you enjoyed it, kindly like, share, and subscribe. Your comments are always welcome, so feel free to tell us what we got right, and also what can be improved. Goodbye, until next time.